your dog's paws are twitching in a dream, and you're still awake beside him. He let go the moment he lay down. You couldn't. Sleep, it turns out, is a quiet deal each creature strikes with its own sense of safety. Here's the strange part. No animal ever sleeps all the way. Every brain keeps one guard awake, and each species posts a different one. Welcome to Sleepy Science. Nothing here asks you to let go all at once. You only ever rest as far as you feel safe. And tonight, you're allowed to feel a little safer than that. Somewhere out in the dark water, a dolphin is resting half its mind while the other half keeps swimming. You don't need to keep that much watch tonight. Let one half of your own guard step quietly down. And the first creature to show us how sleep gets divided begins right there, where the water is deepest and darkest of all. Every animal on Earth has to sleep. The tiny fruit fly does it. The giant blue whale does it. Even worms with almost no brain fall into a still, sleep-like rest each day. Yet sleep is a strange bargain, because a sleeping animal stops guarding itself. Its eyes close, its muscles loosen, and for a while it cannot run, hide, or fight. In the wild, that leaves it completely open and unguarded. So underneath everything we explore tonight sits one quiet question. What decides how deeply each creature dares to let go? And why does no two of them rest in quite the same way? Scientists once believed only the higher animals truly slept. That idea has quietly fallen apart. In the last few years, researchers have found sleep-like states in creatures with the simplest nervous systems we know. A jellyfish, which has no brain at all, still settles into slow, restful pauses at night and grows sluggish if it is kept awake too long. Tiny roundworms, fruit flies, and even the little freshwater hydra do much the same. Whatever sleep is, it appears to be one of life's oldest habits, older than backbones, older than legs. If nearly every animal pays this nightly tax, then the pull toward rest must be woven deep into being alive. Consider what the night asks of a resting body. Hearing dulls. Reaction time slows. The world keeps moving while the sleeper does not. For a small animal, a few unguarded minutes can be the difference between morning and never. This is why sleep and safety are tangled together so tightly. An animal cannot simply lie down anywhere and drift off. It must first answer a silent question. Is it safe enough here to stop watching every burrow, every huddle? Every hidden branch is really an answer to that question. Rest, in the wild, is never free. It is something each creature has to arrange and quietly pay for, one careful night at a time. Here is the puzzle that shaped so much of animal life. Sleep is not optional. A body that never rests slowly breaks down. Yet full, deep sleep leaves an animal open to everything around it. Nature could not remove the need for sleep, so instead it found hundreds of ways to make sleep survivable. Some animals hide. Some sleep in groups and take turns. Some rest only in short scraps, minutes at a time. And a few, as we will see tonight, learn to sleep with half the brain still awake. Each kind of animal strikes its own quiet deal with the dark. The shape of that deal is written into how, where, and how deeply it dares to rest. Now picture the hardest place in the world to fall asleep: the open ocean. A dolphin cannot breathe without thinking about it the way you and I do. For a dolphin, every single breath is a choice it has to make. It must swim up to the surface and push air through the blowhole on top of its head, over and over, for its whole life. If a dolphin fell fully unconscious the way a person does, it would simply stop breathing and slip under. There is no lying down, no safe corner, and no pause from the need for air. So the ocean handed dolphins a problem with no obvious answer. How does a body sleep when going fully offline would end it? The dolphin's answer is one of the most elegant tricks in all of nature. It is called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, and the long name hides a simple idea. The brain has two halves, a left and a right. A dolphin sleeps with only one half at a time. While the left half sinks into deep, slow-wave rest, the right half stays awake and alert. Then, hours later, the two halves trade places. Half the brain naps. The other half keeps the body breathing and watching. Imagine being able to send one side of your mind to bed while the other side quietly runs the house. That, more or less, is what a dolphin does every night of its life. There is a small, striking sign of this split that you can actually see. When a dolphin sleeps, it often keeps one eye open. The open eye is not random. It connects mostly to the half of the brain that is staying awake. So the resting half lets its eye close, while the watchful half keeps its eye on the world. A dolphin drifting through half sleep may keep its right eye open to watch its companions on that side. Then switch eyes when it switches which half rests. One eye softly shut, one eye quietly on guard. In a single face you can read the whole bargain. Part of the animal asleep, part of it still keeping watch over the water. How do we know any of this is real? Researchers gently recorded the brainwaves of dolphins as they rested, using sensors that read the faint electrical rhythm of each half of the brain. In an animal fully asleep, both halves would show the same slow, rolling waves. In dolphins, they saw something no land mammal shows. One half rolling in deep, slow waves, while the other half buzzed with the fast, lively rhythm of being awake. The two sides of the same brain were in two different worlds at once. It was clear, measurable proof that a dolphin never truly goes all the way under. Half of it, in a real sense, is always still awake. The two halves do not simply pick a side and stay there. Over the course of a day, a dolphin trades which half sleeps, again and again. Each half takes its turn resting while the other stands duty. a little like two workers sharing one long shift, so the job is never left alone. A single sleeping session for one half of the brain may last on the order of an hour or two before the switch comes. By moving back and forth like this, both halves collect the deep rest they need across the day. And yet, the whole animal is never fully unconscious at any single moment. The guard is real, but the guard keeps quietly changing places. Add it all up, and a surprising thing appears. Even though a dolphin is only ever half asleep, the rest still adds up to a full portion over each day. The sleep is not skipped. It is simply divided. And this is where our question begins to turn. We started by asking how each animal rests differently, one from another. But under the surface, a pattern is forming. The difference is not really about the sleep itself. It is about how much of itself a creature can afford to release into the dark. A dolphin cannot release all of itself, so it releases half. Safety, not comfort, is quietly setting the terms of the rest. Watch a group of dolphins settling in to rest, and you may see a behavior called logging. The name comes from how they look, like logs of driftwood floating quietly at the surface. During logging, a dolphin lies almost motionless near the top of the water, rising and falling with the gentle swell, breathing slowly and evenly. From a boat, it can be easy to miss. The animals barely move, and the sea rocks them like a wide, slow cradle. Logging is one of the calmest sights in the whole ocean. It is a resting body doing the very least it can while still doing the one thing it must, staying near the air that it needs. Why float right at the surface to rest? The answer sits on top of the dolphin's head. Its blowhole, the single nostril it breathes through, has to clear the water for each breath. By resting just at the surface, a logging dolphin keeps that opening in the air, so breathing can carry on almost automatically as it dozes. Sink too low, and it would have to wake fully and swim back up. Ride too high, and it would be pushed about by the swell. So the animal balances at the exact line between water and air, the one place where sleep and breath can happen together. Even at rest, a dolphin is quietly solving the puzzle of staying alive. Not every dolphin rests by floating still. Many keep moving, even as half the brain sleeps, cruising slowly through the water on a kind of gentle autopilot. A resting dolphin may swim in easy, steady loops, or glide along beside a companion, matching its pace without seeming to think about it. The waking half of the brain handles the steering and the breathing, while the sleeping half rests below the surface of awareness. To a watcher, it looks like nothing special, just a dolphin swimming softly in the dark. But that quiet cruising is sleep in motion, a body carrying itself forward while part of its mind has already slipped away into rest. Whales rest in their own remarkable ways too. In 2008, researchers off the coast of Chile came upon a group of sperm whales doing something few people had ever seen. The whales hung upright in the water, nose toward the surface and tail pointing straight down, completely still. like a stand of giant trees rooted in the sea. They were asleep. The animals drifted in this vertical pose in a loose cluster, silent and motionless, until they slowly woke and moved on. It was one of the first clear looks at how the largest toothed animal on Earth takes its rest. Standing, in a way, right in the middle of the open ocean. That same discovery revealed something else surprising about sperm whales. Their sleep appears to be very short. The observations suggested these whales may spend only a small slice of each day fully at rest, less than almost any other mammal we know of, where a house cat might sleep well over half the day away. A sperm whale seems to get by on brief naps, drifting off in those quiet, vertical drifts for short stretches before returning to the endless work of diving and feeding. It is a behavior we are still only beginning to understand. But it hints that in the deep ocean, even rest is rationed, taken in small, careful amounts rather than long, unbroken nights. Dolphins are not alone in the half-sleeping club. The same split-brain rest has been found across their wider family. Belugas, porpoises, and other toothed whales all show signs of sleeping one hemisphere at a time. These are animals that share the dolphin's basic problem. They live in water. They must surface to breathe, and they can never fully switch off. So it makes sense that they share the dolphin's solution as well. Across the cold northern seas and the warm, shallow bays, the same quiet trick is repeating in body after body. Different animals, the very same bargain. Keep one half of the mind on watch, and let the other half slip gently under. There is a hidden gift in sleeping one half at a time, because a dolphin or a beluga never fully shuts down. It can keep doing the things that keep it alive even while it rests. It can go on swimming. It can rise to breathe. It can stay with its pod and drift in the same direction as the others. A land animal that falls asleep must stop everything. A dolphin at rest simply turns down the volume on half its mind. This is why these animals can cross open water for days without ever pulling over to sleep. They carry their rest along with them, folded neatly into a life that never quite stops moving. Now comes perhaps the most astonishing part of the whole story. When a dolphin or an orca gives birth, the newborn calf does not sleep the way human babies do. Instead, for the first weeks of its life, the calf stays almost constantly active, swimming, surfacing, and moving nearly around the clock. And here is the part that stops scientists in their tracks. The mother stays active too. Rather than settling into rest beside her newborn, she keeps moving with it, giving up her normal sleep to stay by its side. Together, mother and calf press on through those first weeks with almost no rest at all, a feat that would leave a human badly worn down. Why would a mother and her newborn give up sleep at the very moment they seem to need it most? The answer lives in the water itself. A dolphin calf is born unable to float well, and it must swim up to the surface to breathe from its very first minute. It stays close to its mother, riding in the gentle draft she makes as she moves, which helps carry the small body along. To keep that constant surfacing and swimming going, both of them stay awake and in motion. In the open sea, there is no safe cradle to lay a baby down in. So the pair simply keeps going, and real rest waits until the calf grows stronger. What happens to bodies pushed that hard for so long, slowly? As the calf grows, the pressure begins to ease. Over the following weeks and months, both mother and calf gradually take on more and more rest, drifting back toward the ordinary half-sleeping pattern of their kind. The early marathon of movement is not permanent. It is a bridge across the most fragile stretch of a young life. Bit by bit, the guard is allowed to stand down. The calf becomes steadier in the water, better at surfacing on its own, and its mother can finally begin to let go again. Rest returns not all at once, but slowly, as safety slowly returns along with it. Set this beside our own beginnings, and the contrast is striking. A human newborn sleeps most of the day away, sometimes 16 hours or more, cradled safely in arms or a crib while the world is kept gently at bay for it. A dolphin newborn does almost the opposite, barely resting for weeks while it swims for its life. Same event, a new baby entering the world, and two completely different answers to the question of rest. The difference is not that one animal loves sleep more than the other. It is that a human baby can be kept safe while it sleeps, and a dolphin baby, out in the open water, cannot. Safety writes the rules. Step back now and look at everything the ocean has shown us. The split brain, the open eye, the floating rest, the sleepless mother and calf. At first, they look like separate curiosities. But they are all the same move, made in different ways. Each is a body finding how to rest without ever fully lowering its guard. Our question has quietly sharpened. We began by asking why no two animals rest alike. Now it looks less like a puzzle about sleep, and more like a puzzle about safety, about how much of itself a creature can afford to release into the dark. What sets the depth of rest is not the animal. It is the danger it must sleep beside. There is an old image that fits all of this. Picture a night watchman, the one figure who stays awake so that everyone else can rest. In the ocean, that watchman lives inside the sleeping animal itself. One half of the brain keeps its post while the other half sleeps. One eye stays open while the other closes. The dolphin does not post a guard somewhere outside its body. It becomes its own guard, folding the watchman right into the act of sleeping. This is the ocean's answer to the oldest problem of rest. If you cannot find a safe place to sleep, then carry a little wakefulness with you. Always. Down into the deep. Perhaps some part of this feels quietly familiar. You may know the feeling of lying down, tired all the way through, while some corner of your mind refuses to go off duty. It keeps listening. It keeps watching the door. In a way, that restless corner is a night watchman of your own, an old, caring instinct that learned long ago to stay half awake whenever things felt uncertain. The dolphin cannot switch its watchman off either. and it has made a kind of peace with that. There is nothing wrong with the part of you that keeps watch. Tonight you do not have to fight it. You can simply let it soften, one small degree at a time. But the open ocean is only one kind of danger, and the dolphin's split-brain trick is only one kind of answer. The night is wide, and it presses on many different lives at once. High above the waves, other animals face the very same problem: how to rest while staying ready. And they have found answers of their own, stranger and softer than you might guess. A bird crossing an ocean cannot log at the surface or trade off half its brain in quite the same way. It needs another kind of watchman. So we lift our eyes now from the deep water toward the open sky, where sleep itself learns to fly. The first stretch of our night ends here, out where the whales keep half a mind awake. A soft subscribe helps another restless soul drift toward this quiet water too. Now, let's rest for a moment, one sleepy soul at a time. Somewhere in the dark water, half a brain keeps watch while the other half lets go. Something in you knows that trade. Let one side soften. The sky can wait. High above the open ocean, a great frigatebird can fall asleep without ever landing. These large seabirds spend weeks at a time far from shore, riding warm rising air on wings that stretch wider than a doorway. Scientists once assumed they never rested during these journeys. Then tiny brain recorders carried on the birds revealed the truth. A flying frigatebird sleeps only about 40 minutes across a whole day, taken in short bursts of a few seconds each. On solid ground, the very same bird sleeps more than 12 hours. Somehow, it survives on a thin sliver of the rest it would normally take, all while staying in the air. How can a bird sleep while still flying? It leans on the same split-brain trick the ocean showed us. One half sliding into slow, restful waves, while the other half stays awake and watching. But a frigatebird carries that trick up into the air. While one side of its mind rests, the waking side holds the body balanced on the wind, steering the long, patient spirals of its flight. One eye closes with the sleeping half. The other stays open on the sky. It is a kind of sleep no human brain can manage. A night watchman built directly into the wiring of the animal. There is a neat piece of design behind this half-asleep state. In birds, each eye sends most of its signals to the opposite side of the brain. So when a bird keeps its left eye open, it is really keeping the right half of its brain awake to handle what that eye sees. Close the eye, and that same half can slide gently into sleep. This lets a bird aim its wakefulness like a narrow flashlight. It can point its open eye, and the alert brain half behind it, toward whatever direction trouble is most likely to come from, while the rest of it quietly lets go and rests. Watch a sleeping frigatebird more closely, and the picture grows stranger still. It often dozes while slowly circling upward on a rising column of warm air, like a glider drifting in lazy loops. During these turns, it tends to keep the outward-facing eye open, as if keeping watch on the wider sky it is spiraling through. A single feeding trip can last close to 2 months without ever touching land. Across all that time, the bird gathers its rest a few seconds at a time. It is a living reminder that sleep does not always mean stillness, and that a body can keep working while part of the mind slips away. Ducks solve the same problem in a very different way. When mallards settle down to sleep in a row, the birds tucked in the middle can close both eyes and sink into full, deep rest. But the ducks on the very ends of the line often keep their outer eye open. Careful studies found these edge birds use half-brain sleep more than twice as often as the ones nestled safely between them. Each end bird turns its open eye outward, away from the group, scanning the darkness for anything that moves. The whole flock becomes a living wall, with sleeping guards posted quietly at each corner of the line. What makes this especially fascinating is that birds seem to control it. Half-brain sleep is not something that simply happens to them by accident. A bird can dial it up when its surroundings feel risky and ease it back down when things feel calm. In one study, ducks kept more of their brain awake when placed where a hunter might approach. Move them to a safer, sheltered spot, and both eyes closed a little more often. It suggests that for a bird, sleep is a constant, gentle negotiation, a moment-by-moment choice about how much of itself it can afford to switch off tonight. Being surrounded by others changes the whole way a bird sleeps. Geese and ducks often gather into tight groups when they rest, and there is real comfort in the crowd. A bird near the center, ringed by companions on every side, can let both halves of its brain fall quiet at once. It has borrowed the entire flock's watchfulness and no longer needs to keep its own guard posted. The birds on the outer edge carry that duty instead. In this way, a resting flock quietly shares the work of staying safe, so that at least some of its members can sleep all the way through. Some birds barely sleep at all during the busiest weeks of their lives. When songbirds like the Swainson's thrush travel thousands of miles on their yearly migration, they fly mostly at night and rest by day. But instead of long, unbroken sleep, they take hundreds of tiny naps, each lasting only seconds. Scientists call these little pauses microsleeps. A bird's eyes drift shut, its head dips, and moments later it is fully alert again. Stacked together across a day, these crumbs of rest add up to just enough to keep going. For a migrating bird, sleep is not one deep pool, but a scattering of shallow sips. Notice what all these winged sleepers keep showing us. A frigatebird, a duck at the edge of the line, a thrush crossing the dark. None of them can simply lie down and vanish into rest. Each keeps a small piece of itself on watch. And the more open it is to the night, the less of itself it dares to let go. The question we began with is quietly turning. Perhaps what shapes an animal's sleep is not so much the kind of creature it is, but how exposed it feels while it rests. Other birds push this idea even further, staying airborne for astonishing stretches. The common swift can remain in flight for up to 10 months without landing even once. Feeding, drifting, and even mating on the wing. A bird like that cannot stop to sleep in any ordinary sense. Researchers believe swifts, much like frigatebirds, must be catching their rest in the air, likely in brief flickers of half-brain sleep as they glide. Each evening, they climb high into the fading light before easing into a slow, dreamlike descent. The open sky itself becomes their bed, one they may not leave for the better part of a year. On a rocky Antarctic shore, chinstrap penguins have taken the art of the tiny nap to a wonderful extreme. Recent research fitted nesting penguins with brain sensors and found something almost hard to believe. These birds fall asleep more than 10,000 times a day. Each nap lasts only about 4 seconds, roughly the length of one slow breath. They nod off mid-blink, then snap awake, over and over, all day and all night. Added together, these thousands of flickers give each penguin around 11 hours of sleep in total, gathered 4 seconds at a time rather than in one long, quiet night. Why would a bird ever choose to sleep in such tiny fragments for the chinstrap penguin? The answer is protection. While one parent guards the nest, seabirds, called skuas, circle overhead, waiting for any chance to snatch an unguarded egg. Neighboring penguins may also try to steal small pebbles from a nest left untended. So the sitting parent never fully lets go. By sleeping only seconds at a time, it can rest its brain while still keeping its precious eggs safe. The thousands of microsleeps are simply the price of being a good guardian, a way to stay watchful and rested at the very same moment. Larger birds have their own quiet arrangements for the night. Ostriches, the tallest and heaviest birds alive, usually rest together in small groups out on open plains where there is nowhere to hide. Rather than all sleeping at once, they take turns. While some lower their long necks and doze, at least one bird tends to stay upright and alert, its head raised above the grass like a lookout on a tower. Even a resting ostrich often keeps its eyes half open, ready to rise and run within a heartbeat. Out in the open, safety comes not from cover, but from many watchful companions. This idea of taking turns runs through much of the bird world. In many flocks, watching over the group is a shared job, passed quietly from one bird to the next. One individual stays alert while its neighbors rest, and later they trade places. So no single bird has to carry the whole weight of the night alone. It is an unspoken agreement written deep into their instincts. By trusting the flock to keep watch, each bird earns a stretch of deeper, fuller sleep than it could ever risk on its own. Together they build something none of them could have made alone, a shared pocket of rest. There is a kind of tenderness even in the way a bird arranges its body for sleep. Many tuck their heads back and bury their beaks into the soft feathers of their shoulders, curling into a warm, rounded shape. This posture slips the bear, heat-losing head into an insulated pocket, helping the bird hold on to its warmth through a cold night. But it is also a posture of trust. To hide your own eyes and face away like that, you have to feel safe enough to stop looking. A sleeping bird folded into its feathers is a small picture of surrender, offered only when the world feels calm. Gather all these winged sleepers together, and a single thread appears. Whether flying, floating, huddling, or standing guard, birds rarely give themselves fully to sleep the way we imagine sleep should be. One eye stays open. One half of the mind keeps listening. The rest they take is measured out against how exposed they are, offered in careful pieces rather than one long surrender. A bird at the safe center of the flock sleeps more deeply than the one out on the windswept edge. In every case, how far a bird lets go seems to depend on how protected it feels while doing it. Something in you may recognize these half-sleeping birds. The part of your mind that stays on watch even now, listening past the quiet, unwilling to close both eyes at once. You have carried a sentinel of your own for a long time. Let your breath lengthen just a little. There is nothing here that needs guarding tonight. No edge of the flock for you to hold. For these next few minutes, you can let the watcher rest too, and we will keep drifting on together, slowly, through the soft, dark. Consider the lion, stretched flat in the open grass with its belly to the sky. A lion sleeps for roughly 18 to 20 hours a day, more than almost any other big cat, and it does so without hiding. Nothing on the savannah hunts a grown lion, so it has no reason to keep one eye open or one ear turning through the night. Its sleep is long, heavy, and unguarded, the way you might sleep in a house with every door locked and no sound outside. Safety buys depth. The animal at the very top of the food chain can afford to let go completely, because the dark holds nothing it needs to fear. Your own cat carries a smaller version of that same freedom. House cats sleep between 12 and 16 hours a day, dozing on windowsills and warm laundry as if the world owed them rest. They inherited this from wild ancestors who were hunters rather than hunted, and hunters can spend their downtime sleeping because they set the terms of the chase. A well-fed cat curled into a tight spiral is running an ancient program. Eat. Rest deeply. Wake. Hunt. Repeat. The calm you see in a sleeping cat is really the ease of a small predator that has never once had to sleep with its guard fully raised. Now turn to the other side of the bargain. Giraffe. One of the tallest animals alive. Sleeps only about 2 to 4 hours in a whole day, and much of that is taken standing up. Lying down leaves it slow to rise, and on an open plain, a slow giraffe is an easy target. So it rests in brief snatches, knees locked, head still high, catching sleep the way a tired traveler dozes upright at a crowded bus stop. Only rarely does it fold its long legs and lower its head for a few minutes of true, settled rest. For the hunted, sleep is something stolen, never something simply owned. An elephant sleeps even less. In the wild, the largest land animal on Earth rests only around 2 hours a night, and researchers tracking wild herds have watched them stay awake for nearly 2 days at a stretch while moving to new ground. Most of that short sleep happens standing, the great body swaying gently in place. Only every 3 or 4 days does an elephant actually lie down, and then only for its deepest rest, the kind that will not come while upright. Its enormous size cannot shield it from every threat, so even this giant keeps its full surrender rare, brief, and carefully timed to the safest hours. Horses solved the same problem with a clever piece of anatomy. A horse can sleep standing because its legs contain a stay apparatus, a system of ligaments and locking joints that holds the body upright with almost no muscle effort. Picture a built-in kickstand that clicks quietly into place, letting the animal doze on its feet and bolt awake in an instant if danger stirs. This standing doze covers most of a horse's rest across the day. Yet it is not enough on its own, so a horse must still lie fully down for short spells of its deepest sleep, usually only when the herd around it is keeping watch. There is a deeper pattern hidden inside all of this. Prey animals rarely sleep in one long block the way a lion does. Instead, their rest is broken into many short bouts, with frequent wakings to lift the head and scan the horizon. A grazing animal may sleep only minutes at a time, surfacing again and again to check the wind and the grass for anything moving. It is the same restless, shallow sleep you fall into on your first night in an unfamiliar place, when every creak of the building tugs you back awake. The body of a hunted creature treats deep sleep as a risk to be rationed, never a place to sink into freely. Safety, though, can be shared. Many herd and group animals survive the night by taking turns, so that no single one has to stay awake through all of it. Meerkats pile together in their burrow, while a few members rest more lightly near the edge, ready to sound an alarm. Baboons and many grazing herds work the same way, resting in shifts so the group always keeps a few eyes open. It is the animal version of a night watch, where the safety of the whole group lets each member borrow a little deeper sleep. One creature's rest is quietly paid for by another creature's watching. Watch a deer settle at the forest's edge, and you can almost see the calculation happening. It lies down, but keeps its legs tucked to rise in a heartbeat, sleeping in cycles of only a few minutes before its head snaps up to listen. The body never fully commits. Part of it stays poised to run. And here the question we began with quietly turns. We started by asking what decides the way each creature rests. Watching the deer. It looks less like a choice the animal makes and more like a verdict its predators hand down, measured out night by exactly how much danger stands around it. Out on the open plains, that verdict is softened by sheer numbers. Zebras and wildebeest often sleep standing in loose groups, and within the group, individuals take turns lowering their guard, while others stay alert. A single zebra alone would barely dare to close its eyes. Surrounded by dozens, it can finally steal a little real rest. The herd itself becomes one large, shared night watchman, spreading the risk so thin that each animal carries only a sliver of it. What one body could never afford alone, 100 bodies can somehow afford together. Safety, once again, is the quiet currency that every hour of sleep is bought with. Hold these creatures side by side for a moment. In one single night, a lion sprawls unguarded for 20 hours while a giraffe steals minutes on its feet, and an elephant lies down only once in several days. Same darkness, same planet, utterly different nights. And the difference is not really about size or species at all. It traces back to one thing: how much each animal has to fear. Sleep, it turns out, keeps an honest ledger of safety, writing each creature's fear into the very shape of its rest. And that opens a stranger question still, one waiting just ahead. What unfolds inside those guarded minds once they finally do let go? What you just felt. That fear decides how far a creature can fall. May be alive in you tonight. Notice where your own guard still sits, and let it loosen. What comes next follows that letting go. When your dog's paws start to paddle in his sleep, you are watching one of the strangest states in biology. It is called REM sleep, short for rapid eye movement. During it, the brain hums with activity, almost like waking, yet the body lies still. Scientists first identified it in people in the 1950s, then traced its signs through creature after creature. The land animals of the last hour each guarded their rest differently. Now the question turns inward, past the guarding, into what the sleeping brain actually does once the body has finally let go. A sleeping cat looks perfectly calm until a whisker flicks. A paw twitches, and the ears swivel towards some sound only she can hear. The French researcher Michel Jouvet studied this in the 1960s and gave it a fitting name: paradoxical sleep. The paradox is simple. The brain is active as if awake, but the muscles have gone soft and heavy. In certain experiments where that softness was switched off, cats rose with their eyes still closed and acted out, crouching and pouncing. Something was clearly playing across the mind, even while the body stayed asleep on the floor. Dog owners know the sight well. The legs begin to run against nothing. The nose puffs, and now and then a muffled bark slips out. These little movements often echo what the dog did while awake. A chase in the yard. A scramble after a ball. Researchers call this motor replay. In the lab, recordings in animals like rats show the movement circuits firing in patterns that resemble the day's activity. In a dog, we mostly read it from the outside, in the paddling legs and puffing nose. It does not prove the dog is picturing a dream the way you would. It simply shows the sleeping brain quietly running through motions it already knows, like fingers tracing a familiar path. Of every animal ever measured in a sleep lab, the platypus may be the twitchiest of all. This odd Australian creature, with its duck-like bill and webbed feet, shows more REM-style movement than any other studied species. As it rests, its bill trembles and its eyes flicker under closed lids, sometimes for hours across a day. What makes this stranger still is that the platypus is a monotreme, a mammal that lays eggs, sitting on a very old branch of the family tree. It's restless, flickering sleep hints that this active state runs deep through animal history, though scientists still debate exactly how deep. How do we even know an animal is in this state? Scientists watch three things at once. They record brain waves with sensors, track the darting of the eyes, and measure the tone of the muscles. During REM, the eyes jump, the brain waves quicken, and the muscles go almost completely limp. That limpness has a name: muscle atonia. It is as if the body flips a switch that cuts the line between the busy brain and the moving limbs. For a short while, the mind can be fully active, while the body rests like a puppet, with its strings gently loosened. That deep muscle stillness is not an accident. It appears to be a safety feature, built to keep a dreaming animal from acting out whatever the brain is doing. Picture a sleeping deer that bolted every time its mind replayed a run. It would tire itself out and give away its hiding place. So the body holds still while the brain roams. In rare cases where this switch fails, animals and people begin to move with their dreams, kicking, running, even leaping up. The stillness we mistake for emptiness is really the brain protecting the body from its own night activity. In quiet laboratories, scientists have watched something curious in sleeping rats. While a rat learns a maze, certain brain cells fire in a specific order, like keys pressed along a piano. Later, as the rat sleeps, those same cells fire in the same order again, only faster. Researchers call this replay. The sleeping brain seems to be running back over the path it walked, helping to lock the memory in place. It is worth being careful here. This is a pattern of nerve cells, not proof that the rat sees a dream. But it shows the sleeping mind is far from idle. Birds return to this story with a gift of their own: song. Young zebra finches learn their tunes by listening and practicing, note by note, through the day. When scientists listened to the birds' brains at night, they found the song circuits firing in the same shapes used while singing, as if the bird were rehearsing in its sleep without making a sound. By morning, the practice seems to help. This silent, sleeping rehearsal suggests that for a songbird, the night is not wasted time. It is a quiet studio where the day's lessons are played over and gently learned. There is a curious twist in how birds handle this active sleep. In mammals like us, a stretch of REM can last many minutes at a time. In birds, it often arrives in tiny flashes, sometimes only a few seconds long, before the brain slips back into quiet, slow-wave rest. Imagine a light blinking on and off rather than glowing steadily. Scientists think these brief bursts still do real work, keeping the brain warm and the eyes moving. But they remind us that the same state can look very different from one branch of the animal family to another. For a long time, many scientists believed only birds and mammals had this two-part sleep. Then reptiles quietly changed the picture. In 2016, researchers studying a small lizard called the bearded dragon found its brain cycling between two states through the night. one of them resembling REM. Later work in other reptiles, like the Argentine tegu, hinted at something similar. Their cycles run much faster than ours, flickering back and forth in seconds rather than stretching across an hour. The finding is still discussed and refined, but it pushed the roots of active sleep further back and wider than expected. Few sights in the ocean are as strange as a sleeping octopus changing color. As it rests, its skin can suddenly ripple with pale and dark patches. Its arms curl, and its eyes twitch beneath the surface. Then, moments later, it goes still and quiet again. Scientists have found the octopus cycles between a calm sleep and a brief active sleep, much like the two states seen in very different animals. No one can say what, if anything, passes through its mind. But watching those colors bloom and fade in the dark, it is hard not to wonder what the animal is doing. The cuttlefish, a close cousin of the octopus, shows a similar rhythm when it sleeps. Researchers watching aquarium tanks noticed the animals settling into long, still stretches, broken by short spells of rapid eye movement, twitching arms, and flickering shin. During those active spells, the patterns on their bodies shifted as though something were passing over them. Scientists studied it closely because these ocean animals sit so far from us on the tree of life. Yet their sleep looks oddly familiar. It suggests that whatever this active state is for, nature has arrived at it more than once, along very separate paths. Even fish, which never close their eyes, appear to sleep. Studying tiny see-through zebrafish, scientists watched their brains and bodies slow at night and found at least two resting states. One resembled our deep, slow sleep. Another carried faint echoes of REM, with changes in heart rate and muscle tone. The fish did not move their eyes the way a dog does, but the underlying signals rhymed with ours. Since zebrafish and humans last shared an ancestor hundreds of millions of years ago, this quiet finding suggests the layered structure of sleep is far older and more widely shared than we long assumed. Sleep reaches even the smallest lives. Fruit flies grow still and hard to wake at night, and when kept awake, they need extra rest afterward, just as a tired person does. Honeybees droop their antennae as they sleep, and a poorly rested bee dances less clearly the next day, blurring the directions it gives its hive. Some researchers report distinct phases within insect rest, hints of deeper and lighter stages. These animals have simple, tiny brains, yet sleep still tends them. It is a gentle reminder that this nightly pause is woven through almost every kind of nervous system we know. Scientists have a word for what keeps happening here: convergence. It is when separate branches of life, with no recent shared ancestor, arrive at the same solution on their own. The way both birds and bats grew wings without inheriting them from one flying parent. Active sleep looks like one of these repeated inventions, appearing in mammals, birds, reptiles, and even sea creatures. And here our question shifts under our feet again. maybe no single blueprint decides how each animal rests. Maybe each one solved the same nightly puzzle alone: how to let the brain stir while the body stays safe. Why would a resting brain switch itself back on? Scientists have gathered several careful ideas rather than one firm answer. In young animals, the bursts of activity may help wire the growing brain, testing its own circuits like a new machine running a check. In adults, the replay of the day may help sort and store memories. Some suggest the warmth and movement simply keep the brain ready to wake fast if needed. These ideas do not cancel each other out. The active state may quietly do several jobs at once, which could be why nature has kept it in so many forms. So do animals dream? It is the question everyone asks. And the honest answer is that we cannot be sure. A dream, as we know it, is a story told from the inside, and no animal can describe one to us. What we can measure is the outside: the twitching legs, the moving eyes, the brain patterns that echo waking life. These signs tell us the sleeping mind is active and busy. Whether that activity feels like anything to the animal is a door we cannot yet open. Science stays careful here, watching closely and resisting the pull to simply assume. Those small sleep twitches may be doing something unexpected. One line of research suggests that when a sleeping animal's limbs jerk, the movement is not leftover noise. Instead, the twitch sends a signal up to the brain, which listens and learns where the body's parts are and how they connect. It is a little like a map maker tapping each point to see where it sits. This may be why the youngest animals, still learning their own bodies, twitch the most in sleep. The night jerks that look so random could be the quiet work of a brain teaching itself its own shape. Watch a litter of sleeping puppies and you will see almost constant motion. Paws paddling, mouths working, tiny yips slipping out. Newborn mammals spend far more of their sleep in the active, twitching state than grown ones do. A young kitten or pup may pass most of its rest this way, while an old dog spends much less. The pattern points back to growth. When the brain is busy building itself, wiring paths between muscle and mind, it seems to need great stretches of this stirring sleep. As the animal matures and its map is drawn, the restless share slowly shrinks. We belong to this pattern too. A human newborn sleeps around 16 hours a day, and close to half of that is spent in REM, far more than the fifth or so an adult gets. Inside those hours, the baby's eyes dart, its fingers flex, and small expressions cross its face. Scientists think this flood of active sleep helps knit together a brain that arrives largely unfinished. So the paddling paws of a dreaming puppy and the twitching hands of a sleeping infant may be doing the very same ancient work. A young mind quietly finding its own edges. Not every animal joins this story in the same way. Dolphins, which sleep with one half of the brain at a time, show little or no clear sign of the usual REM state. For an animal that surfaces to breathe and keeps half its mind on watch, a stretch of full-body limpness would leave it far too exposed. So where the platypus flickers for hours, the dolphin seems to skip the state almost entirely. The same nightly puzzle. Rest the brain. Guard the body. Has been answered in opposite ways by two mammals shaped by very different worlds. For years, scientists linked this active sleep mostly to warm-blooded animals, the mammals and birds that hold their own body heat. The idea fit neatly, until the cooler-blooded creatures began breaking it. Lizards, cuttlefish, and fish all showed states that rhymed with REM, though their bodies run on the temperature around them. The tidy line between warm and cold no longer holds so firmly. Researchers now discuss this openly, unsure exactly where the boundaries lie. It is one of those honest moments in science where a clean rule meets messy nature. And nature, as usual, turns out to be wider. And what of the moving eyes themselves? The very thing that named this state in people. The darting often lines up with shifts in the dream, as though the eyes were glancing about a scene. Some scientists have gently asked whether an animal's flickering eyes might track something too, an inner picture we cannot share. Others urge caution, noting the eyes may simply move as part of the brain's housekeeping. No one can settle it from the outside. Still, there is a soft wonder in watching a creature's eyes drift beneath closed lids, doing quietly whatever it is they do. Somewhere in the dark right now, a creature's eyes are drifting beneath closed lids, doing what they have always done without needing to explain it. No effort. No permission asked. The body simply let go as far as it safely could, and the rest arrived on its own. Something is gathering in all of this, that how deeply anything sleeps seems to follow one quiet thing. How safe it feels. You don't have to earn the letting go, or fully understand it. You only have to feel where you already are. What we have been circling is very near now. The story keeps reaching into surprising corners. In 2022, researchers watching jumping spiders at night noticed something they could hardly believe. Brief spells where the spider's legs curled and twitched and parts of their eyes flickered, all in a rhythm that recalled REM. Jumping spiders can shift their retinas to look around, and during these bouts, those inner eyes seemed to move. It is far too early to say a spider dreams. But finding an echo of this state in an 8-legged hunter, so distant from us, only widens the mystery of how far into life this active sleep may reach. Step back, and the whole night arranges itself around a single idea. From the flickering platypus to the guarded dolphin, from the color-shifting octopus to the twitching spider, each animal enters this active sleep only as far as its life allows. The safe sleeper flickers freely for hours. The exposed one barely lets go at all. How deeply any creature sleeps is decided, in the end, by how safe it feels. Every animal only surrenders as far as it dares. The facts still ahead carry this same truth, but softer now, closer to the skin than to the mind. Somewhere overhead, a little brown bat is folded into the dark, sleeping close to 20 hours out of every day. It hangs upside down in a hollow or a cave, wings drawn around it like a thin cloak. Few creatures on Earth rest this long. The bat can afford it because its roost is high, hidden, and hard for anything to reach. Safety bought it the deepest budget of sleep in the mammal world. A whole day spent almost entirely at rest. A hanging bat is not being lazy. Gripping with its feet costs the bat almost nothing, because its tendons lock the toes closed without effort. So it can let every other muscle go slack and still not fall. Hidden in the dark, above the reach of most hunters, it has almost no guard left to post. The safest sleeper keeps the smallest watch. Where a deer must stay half alert, the bat can simply disappear into the ceiling and rest. In cool weather, the bat does something stranger still. Its body temperature slides down toward the temperature of the cave, and its heart slows to a faint, unhurried tap. This state is called torpor, a kind of rest deeper than ordinary sleep, where the animal spends almost no energy at all. It is not quite sleeping and not quite awake. The bat has found a way to wait out the cold, dimming itself down like a lamp turned low until warmth returns. The hummingbird does the same thing every single night. By day, its heart may beat over 1,000 times a minute. After dark, that racing engine falls to around 50. Its body cools, and it hangs on its perch looking almost lifeless. This nightly torpor lets a bird that lives on the edge of starvation survive the hours it cannot feed. Rest, for the smallest of flyers, becomes a way of switching itself off gently, trusting the dark to keep it while it powers down. Farther north, a ground squirrel curls into a burrow and lets winter take it much deeper. Its body cools until it is barely above freezing, its heart dropping to a few slow beats each minute. For months it lies in hibernation, breathing so faintly you might think it gone. Underground, sealed away from the killing cold and from anything that hunts, it has made the safest room it can. Only then, fully hidden, does its body dare to slow almost all the way to stillness. Here is the quiet surprise inside hibernation. That deep, cold state is not really sleep at all. Every week or so, the hibernating squirrel warms itself back up, shivering its temperature toward normal. And scientists think it does this partly so it can finally sleep in the ordinary way. It wakes, in a sense, in order to rest. Even an animal buried in winter still needs true sleep, as if some repair can only happen once the body is warm and softly dreaming again. A bear in its winter den does something gentler. It does not cool all the way down like the squirrel. Its temperature drops only a little, and it can rouse if something disturbs the den. For months, it lives on its own stored fat, its breathing long and slow. This is a lighter dormancy, a half-lowered guard rather than a full surrender. Even asleep for the season. The largest sleeper in the forest keeps just enough wakefulness to open its eyes if the dark ever turns dangerous. The Arctic ground squirrel goes further than almost any other animal alive. In deep hibernation, its body can fall below the freezing point of water, colder than any other mammal has ever been measured. And still, it does not freeze solid. Its blood somehow stays liquid at temperatures that should turn it to ice. Tucked in frozen ground, safe from the long polar winter, it becomes the coldest sleeping creature on the planet, waiting out months of darkness at the very edge of what a warm body can survive. Out on the pack ice, a walrus solves the problem differently. It can go days almost without sleep while feeding, staying awake far longer than we ever could. Then, when it finally rests, it may hook its two long tusks over the edge of an ice floe and simply hang there, held in place while it sleeps. Or it drifts at the surface, bobbing like a great cork. It sleeps only once it has anchored itself somewhere. The sea cannot quietly carry it away. A walrus can even sleep in the open water itself. It fills special pouches in its throat with air, and these act like built-in pillows, buoying its heavy body so its head stays up while it drifts and dozes. On land, the herd solve safety another way. Hundreds of them pile together in a warm, snoring heap, each one a little safer for the bodies pressed around it. Whether floating or crowded on the shore, the walrus rests only when it feels held. The sloth has long been called one of the sleepiest animals, but the truth turned out softer than the legend. In zoos, sloths were seen sleeping 15 or 16 hours a day. Yet when researchers finally watched wild sloths in the forest, they slept closer to 10. The old number came from safe, easy captivity. The wild sloth, still listening for danger, keeps more of the day awake. Even the famous sleeper sleeps less when the forest around it has not fully promised to be gentle. What the sloth trades for wakefulness is speed. It moves so slowly that a coat of green algae grows in its fur, blurring it into the leaves. Predators that hunt by movement often slide right past a body that barely seems to move at all. Its safety is not a burrow or a cave. It is stillness itself. By living at the pace of the growing branches around it, the sloth turns slowness into a hiding place, and rest into something it can almost do out in the open. In caves where sunlight never reaches, some fish have let sleep go almost entirely. The Mexican cavefish, sealed for ages in lightless pools with nothing to hunt it, sleeps far less than its relatives out in the rivers. With no predators to hide from and no day or night to keep, the old need to shut down and stay hidden simply faded away. When safety becomes total and the dark never lifts, even sleep can loosen its grip and quietly begin to disappear. Near the top of the world, summer erases the night completely. Under a sun that never sets, reindeer stop keeping tidy, hours of sleep and rest. They graze and doze in small snatches around the clock, letting hunger rather than darkness decide when they lie down. Recent studies even suggest they can drift into a sleep-like calm while chewing their cud. When the sky refuses to grow dark, the reindeer simply lets go of the schedule and takes its rest in scattered, gentle pieces. Watch any animal moved into safety, and the same thing happens. It begins to sleep more deeply. Lions in the wild rest lightly, but behind the safety of a zoo, they sink into longer, softer sleep. The body seems to hold a hidden rule. It only lets go as far as it feels protected. That is the quiet answer these 100 creatures have been circling. How deeply anything sleeps was never really about the animal. It was always about how safe the world around it felt. The closer we come to ourselves, the clearer this grows. Great apes build a fresh bed every single night. An orangutan bends branches into a springy platform high in the trees, sometimes adding a leafy roof against the rain. Chimpanzees and gorillas weave their own nightly nests too. These beds are not comfort alone. They are safety, lifting the sleeper above the ground and its dangers. And the apes that build the surest beds tend to fall into the richest, most dreaming sleep of all. Our own ancestors carried that habit further than any other animal. We came down from the trees and made the safest bed on earth. Walls, fire, a circle of others keeping watch through the night. No creature has ever surrounded its sleep with so much protection. By every outward measure, the human sleeper should be the most defenseless dreamer alive, and also the most secure. And yet, safe as we made ourselves, our sleep did not simply melt into effortless surrender. Something curious happened instead. Humans sleep fewer hours than most of our primate cousins. Yet we pack more dreaming into that shorter night. A larger share of our sleep is spent in vivid REM than in almost any other primate. The safety of fire and company let us compress rest into a brief, intense, dream-rich window. We became efficient sleepers, quick to dive deep, quick to rise. On paper, we should let go faster and more fully than any animal that came before us. But the guard that every animal posts never fully left us. Deep in the human brain sits a system that keeps a low watch even as we drift off, ready to wake us at a strange sound in the dark. In our safe beds, it still stands, its post, scanning a night that holds almost no danger. The dolphin keeps half its mind swimming. We keep a quiet sentinel awake in the walls of sleep. That old watchman is why rest so rarely arrives all at once. And here is why the dog lets go so easily while you lie there, still awake. His guard answers only to what is real. A scent, a sound, a shape in the yard. Yours answers to imagination. The human mind can conjure tomorrow's worries and yesterday's mistakes. And to the ancient watchman, a frightening thought looks just like a frightening animal. Your sleeplessness is not weakness. It is a guard doing its job too well, mistaking the noise inside your head for something out in the dark. Which means safety, for us, was never only a fact about the world. It is a feeling the body has to believe. You can lie in the safest room ever built and still not sleep, because the sentinel inside is not reading the locks on the door. It is reading you. The body rests as deeply as it feels, not as safe as it truly is. Insomnia is not a flaw in you. It is an old faithful alarm that has not yet been told the danger has passed. So the same permission every animal waits for is the one you are waiting for now. The bat lets go because the cave is high. The squirrel lets go because the burrow is sealed. Each one surrenders only as far as it dares. Tonight, you are allowed to dare a little more. Nothing is asking you to drop your whole guard at once, only to let one part of the watch step quietly down, the way a dolphin lowers half its mind and keeps drifting. From the bat folded in the dark to the bear in its den to you, resting here. It is all one gesture. Every creature is making the same soft bargain with the night, letting go by exactly the amount it feels held. There is no animal that surrenders completely, and none that needs to. You are not failing at rest by keeping a little watch. You are simply doing what everything alive has always done, sleeping as deeply as safety allows, and no less. The guard is not gone now. It is only sitting down. Your breath has lengthened. The room has grown soft and far away. Somewhere 1,000 creatures are letting go by their own careful measure, and you are quietly joining them. There is nothing left to solve tonight. The watch can loosen. The mind can lower itself the way a bird settles onto a branch, folding in, growing still, trusting the dark to hold what it can no longer carry. How deeply anything sleeps is decided by how safe it feels. And tonight, you are safe enough. Every creature and every restless mind only ever lets go as far as it dares. But daring is allowed to grow. The dog beside you knew this all along. Now you know it too. You do not have to switch off all at once. You only have to feel a little safer than before, and let yourself sink the rest of the way home. 100 facts ago, we asked what decides the way each animal sleeps and dreams. We began beside a dolphin, resting half its mind in the dark water. Sure, the answer lived somewhere in the animals themselves. But the further we drifted, past the bat folded into 20 hours of dark, past the Arctic squirrel cooling below freezing, past the ape weaving a bed high in the trees, the more the animals fell away, and something simpler was left standing. The answer was never really about the creature. It was always about safety. Every creature sleeps only as deeply as it feels safe to. That is the whole of it. And every tired mind listening now, yours among them, lets go only as far as it dares. And tonight, you are allowed to dare a little further into rest than before. Perhaps these quiet hours among the sleeping animals brought your own guard a little lower tonight. A gentle like, subscribe, or share carries this calm to another restless mind, still lying awake and waiting to feel safe enough to let go. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. All across the dark side of the world, creatures are letting go by their own soft measure. The bat loosens in its cave. The squirrel lies cooled in its sealed burrow. The ape settles into the bed it built. None of them is trying. each simply sinks as far as its safety allows, and no further is asked. Let your entire being dissolve into that same gentle bargain. You are held enough. You can let the watch grow quiet and slip down with all the rest of the living dark. You can allow these thoughts to settle now, like a sleeping bird folding into the branch, softer with every breath. Let your body grow heavy and still. If sleep comes, let it carry you to the safe, dark place every creature is drifting toward tonight. The Relaxing Earth documentary for Sleep playlist has spent many hours among the animals of the quiet world, watching how each one learns to rest. The next hour follows the part of tonight's question we left unfinished: what the dreaming mind actually does once the guard has finally stepped down. That hour is waiting whenever you are ready. But if your eyes are closed, stay there. Rest well, quiet one. You are safe enough to let go, where science becomes the softest place to rest. Good night.